On Monday, January 17th at 12 noon, the local time at the United Arab Emirates, 3 oil tankers were hit by drone attacks launched by the Houthi militias. 3 civilians were killed and 6 more people were injured. The White House said that it condemns the attack strongly. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said, "Our commitment to the security of the UAE is unwavering, and we stand beside our Emirati partners against all threats to their territory." In addition, the Emirati Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Anwar Girgash tweeted the following: "Terrorist militias tampered with the stability of the region is too weak to affect the security and safety process we live in, and the fate of this reckless and absurdity is to demise and defeat." I agree 100% with this statement. There was also a phone conversation between Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed. There was a request to redesignate the Houthis as a terror group.
The Biden administration came into office in January, and I think they made a terrible mistake, which was reversing the foreign terrorist organization designation of the Houthis. The reason why I say it was a terrible mistake was because the Trump administration, which I had the honor and privilege of serving as a deputy envoy for, went through a lengthy process to come up with this designation of the Houthis. And just like any administration does that, it's a very, like I said, lengthy process, requires tons of documentation and review. And so that's how the Trump administration came to the Houthis FTO designation. When the Biden administration came into office and immediately reversed the FTO designation, it was clear to most observers that this was perhaps a gift to the Iranian regime to try to get them to engage with the Biden administration in a hoped-for nuclear deal. And what we've seen since that time is that the Houthis have proven themselves to be indeed a terror organization, just as the Trump administration designated them to be so. And I think at this moment, the Biden administration has their arms tied because they made this mistake. And all they can do right now is condemn one attack after the next. What we saw with this most recent attack on the UAE is that it's time to really reverse course and do the right thing by our allies. I think statements are not enough, to be perfectly frank. When you're the United States of America, we are the greatest power on earth, and we stand for the values that our allies support. And the United Arab Emirates has proven time and again, whether it's through their coexistence, whether it's through the signing of the Abraham Accords, they have proven again that they are a reflection of America and everything that we stand for in the Middle East. And so the time for statements is behind us. We need to do the right thing and be America. And so that would mean that the Biden administration, again, they need to go ahead and declare to designate the Houthis as an FTO. But more than that, they need to be giving the UAE and all of our Gulf allies every support they need in the military realm, as well as military equipment that's been requested from the United States, so that these countries can go ahead and support themselves from the Iranian regime. I would tell you that it was a failure on the part of the Biden administration to truly understand what the consequences were going to be of reversing this FTO designation. The fact that they didn't predict that it would indeed encourage more bad behavior, encourage more attacks and deadlier attacks, it was a failure. We know the Iranian regime now, since 1979, we're talking about over 40 years, the regime has a track record of being the world's greatest terror patron country. And so we've seen them over and again kill civilians, whether it's in the Middle East, North Africa, whether it's in the Americas and Latin America. We've seen the Iranian regime's track record. And so again, reversing this FTO designation and not understanding what the consequences would be was a deep failure on the part of this administration. And it's shocking to imagine that people who are actually experienced, and many in the State Department are people who were serving in the Obama administration, that they didn't know better. We've seen reports that the Houthis are stealing the humanitarian assistance. We've also seen reports about the Houthis forcing children into to be child soldiers and committing atrocities of the most horrible kind against the civilians in Yemen. So it's not just naive, it's dangerous to be giving the Houthis any kind of resources. Again, you give a terrorist a resource, and what do they do with it? They commit more terrorism.
The United States' reaction to the Houthis' attack is not enough. The responsibility lies on the Biden administration, which removed the Houthis from the list of terror groups declared by the United States government. They justified such an action as necessary to allow for delivery of humanitarian assistance. It's important to notice that the United States has a military base at Al-Dhafra, and it's next door to the neighborhood of Al-Musaffah. The attack must be regarded as an attack by Iran, not the Houthis. Iran has utilized the Houthis to launch attacks against Saudi Arabia, and since the year 2021, Tehran has deployed Shahid 136 drones in Yemen. As a result, the Biden administration should not rule out Iran's involvement in the attack on the Emirates. The Houthis are an agent of Iran who want to spread terror. They have all the bad intentions against the United Arab Emirates. They may soon send agents to infiltrate the Emirates. They may launch terror operations targeting places in the UAE. The security apparatus in the United Arab Emirates are watching these Houthi schemes against their country carefully.
I think the call from the UAE to put the Houthi rebels back on the U.S. State Department's FTO list is certainly the right call to make. Unfortunately, I think that their call for action is going to be met on deaf ears from the State Department and everyone else in the Biden administration. They have had every opportunity to put the Houthis back on the FTO list. And they haven't done it. So I don't think that the State Department's going to be changing their tune anytime soon. With that said, I do think it's great that the UAE has called for this. And I think it's great that their new allies in the region like Israel have also supported them in this call. I think President Biden made the decision to take the Houthis off of the FTO list because they just simply don't understand that the Houthis are indeed terrorists, and they don't understand that they're also funded by the Iranian regime, or maybe they actually do understand, and that's why they haven't. President Biden's been projecting weakness and appeasing the mullahs in Tehran since he took office. So perhaps this was just another way of appeasing the mullahs by taking the Houthis off of the FTO list. I sure hope it is. Time is going to tell. We're going to see how the United States government responds to this request to put the Houthis back on the FTO list. And listen, I've been very clear on this. The Houthis should 100% be back on that FTO list. They are terrorists. The individuals that fund them are terrorists. And they've been sowing division, not just against America, but against our regional allies like the UAE, like Saudi Arabia. And it is time for the State Department to put them back on the FTO list. It's not going to solve everything by doing that, but at least it will show the world and it'll show our allies that we stand with them when terrorists are attacking them. Well, you know, earlier in this chat, I just mentioned that the Houthis are primarily backed by the Iranian regime. Certainly, the Iranian regime is not happy that the UAE is flourishing the way that they are right now. They're not happy that the UAE is building partnerships throughout the region with other Arab countries and also with Israel. So I think this move by the Houthis is to send a message to the Emiratis that the Iranians are not happy with what they're doing. With that said, I think the Emiratis have fired back in a very strong way in calling on President Biden to put them back on the FTO list. I think that was the right move to make. And I really do hope that President Biden will once and for all put the Houthis back on the foreign terrorist organization list, because they are terrorists. They act like terrorists. They sound like terrorists. So they must be terrorists. Put them back on the list.
We strongly condemn the cowardice terrorist attack on Abu Dhabi. The Houthis are a terror group. No one will deny this. The problem is with the Biden administration and few European countries. They think they are a local resistance movement against foreign intervention. Worse, they think they are the ones who can help deliver humanitarian assistance. They are actually the reason why good and medicine not reach the starving and sick population in Yemen. The solution begins when the Biden administration reclassified the Houthis as a terror organization like what they used to be and will always be. Hey, Maria Malouf here. Please click to like and subscribe to Maria Malouf TV YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.